Hey everyone, hope your day is going well. We are back with another reaction. And are you also always wondering why the sky isn't pink or the grass isn't blue? Like me? Hey, great minds, huh? We're gonna find out how the colors got their names in this video. I'm looking forward to it. This is very fascinating and interesting to me. So let's jump in.
Earliest humans didn't have words for colors. They had words for objects and actions, and it took tens of thousands of years for those words to evolve into the names of the colors we use today. Looking back gives us a glimpse at how those early people saw the world around them. We'll also answer that age-old question, which came first, orange the fruit or orange the color? I'm Dr. Erica Brzozowski.
That's not a question in Dutch because oranges in Dutch are named sinaasappel. And oranje is the color. So we don't have that problem. We don't have that question. So even based on language, we have different age-old questions. That's interesting.
And this is other words.
Other words.
The human eye can perceive millions of slight gradations of color, but unless you're a designer or an artist, you probably only regularly use about 10 or so color words, and they are remarkably similar across all cultures. A landmark study by Brent Berlin and Paul Kay found that people across the world developed their words for colors in more or less the same chronological order.
Wow.
For example,
That's interesting. And also, the colors that we perceive, that's also another interesting topic. Even when I mentioned why is the sky not pink, maybe for birds, it is a little bit more purplish because they do have, I guess, more cones in their eyes and can perceive more colors. So the actual color of the sky might be a little bit different than what we perceive. Yeah, so that's also very interesting to me, man. Hey, yeah. We're on a
order.
journey here.
For example, if a language only had 2 words for colors, they were always black and white. If a language had only 3 color words, they were black, white, and red. Yellow and green came next in either order, then blue, brown, and so on.
Wow,
this
that's so
hierarchy
interesting.
closely matches human
How?
psychology. After all, what could be more visually fundamental than the dichotomy between light and darkness? And we're hardwired to have a strong emotional reaction to red, as it has a lot of survival significance, from food to sex to violence. Blue is surprisingly far down the list, considering it's most people's favorite color, but actually, due to
Not
a
mine,
chemical quirk, blue is very rare in nature. Except, of course, for the sky, but you don't really need a word to help identify the sky. Which sky do you mean? Oh, the blue sky. The English word white
How many
can be
skies
traced
are there?
all the way back to the Proto-Indo-European root quite, which meant to shine. Black
Ah.
similarly goes back to the PIE blag, which meant to burn, a reference to the color of what's left after burning. Red is unique in that it's the only color that has a PIE root that just meant the same thing, red. Although it may have been used to describe
Yeah, in Flemish or Dutch, it's rood, R-O-O-D. So that's very close to rood or roids or however you pronounce this, root. Interesting how close the colors, the naming is in different languages, plus that evolution of when certain words, got, evolved enough to colors or to the naming, and it's always black, white, and yeah. What culture did it the other way around? I'm interested in those guys. Those are the interesting guys, not the textbook. Oh, black, white, red guys. Ugh, that's boring.
anything that had a warm or interesting color. Yellow came from the PIE gel, which also meant to shine, and gave us many related
Man, that's
words
so
like
interesting.
gold, glimmer, glow, and gleam.
Yellow is actually quite different than gel, but the R word in Flemish or Dutch is geel, G-E-E-L. So that's pretty close, right? Yellow is a little different.
Green comes from the PIE gre, which meant to grow for its obvious connection to
And
plants.
French is entirely different. This is like jaune. And in French, green is vert or vert, based on the gender. And with us, it's groen.
and
So
also gave us
interesting. I love
grays
this.
and grass. Interestingly, even though humans can perceive more shades of green than any other color, we just use
Really?
one word for them all.
I didn't know that.
Think about it. How many different kinds of red can you name compared to different kinds of green? The reason is probably that even though our ancestors were surrounded by green, or rather because they were surrounded by green, it's just not that interesting to us. A 2016 study by Hannah J. Haney and Claire Bowen found that humans across many different languages have an easier time communicating warm colors than cool colors. This color wheel, for instance, has twice as many common color words on the warm side than the cool side. To understand why, just picture what the world may have looked like to our early ancestors. Which things in their field of view are worth talking about? The cool-colored ones or the warm-colored ones? Perhaps for this reason, the word blue has been traced back to the PIE root bleu, which meant yellow.
There's more like background colors, the green and the blue. Like that's the painting. We start with the sky. We have a little bit of green. That's almost like a background, almost not worth mentioning in the prehistoric because it's so common. And then things pop up and we paint the characters or the fruits, the images, and the different colors that really pop. And those seem to be more interesting to our eye and to our minds. Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
There simply wasn't a need to describe the color blue until much later on, when humans started making dyes and paints from rare materials like lapis lazuli. Orange was pretty late to the scene. The Old English term for the color between yellow and red was gelorade, which literally meant yellow-red. But then, sometime around the 15th or 16th century, Portuguese merchants began importing an exotic fruit to Europe, known by its Sanskrit name, naranja. This came to be naranja in Spanish, arancia in Italian, and orange in French. The
Orange.
latter two likely dropped the N at the beginning through a confusion about where the article ended. It's the same way we got an apron from a napron and a nickname from an eek name. Over the next couple hundred years, people went from saying things were orange colored or the color of an orange to just saying they were orange. So
Right.
there you have it. The
Makes
fruit
sense.
came first. But we're still living with the effects of not having a proper name for the color for a long time. It's why this is called a redhead and this a red robin, even though they're both clearly the color of an orange. Brown comes from the
Yeah. We call them roodborstje, which means red breast. The bird. I was talking about the bird, okay?
PIE bear, which meant bright, possibly in the sense of polished wood. Indeed, it also gives us the word
Beer is bear, right? Like a bear?
burnished. The animal that we today call a bear
Right,
went by a
right.
totally different word prior to the Middle Ages.
No
But
way.
since it was considered dangerous to even mention the fearsome beast by name, ancient hunters came up with a euphemism, barrow, which meant brown one. They were so superstitious, in fact, that the true Old English word for bear is now lost to history. Purple is one
Man. People called me a brown one when I was a kid and pointed at me like that, man. Yeah. It's sad, but yeah, I can laugh about it now.
history. Purple is one of the
We'll
few
get there in the
common
end.
color words without a PIE root. It comes from the Latin purpura, which referred to a certain shellfish that was ground down to make a distinctly colored dye. Because of its vibrance and rarity, purple became very popular with the wealthy and powerful and is still associated with royalty today. It wasn't really until humans became proficient artists that we started adding colors to our vocabulary by the hundreds. Most are either based on the source of the pigment like stones, plants, and
Indigo.
insects,
I like that.
or to what the color reminds us of, whether it's the sky, the birds, or a beverage. So how many unique color names are there? It's hard to say, but it's definitely in the hundreds, if not thousands. Some have long histories dating back to the beginning of civilization, and some were made up recently by crayon marketing departments. You may
What? I've never seen that. Beautiful? Yeah. That's interesting how so many colors. Me and my daughter always try this exercise, trying to picture a color that doesn't exist, that we haven't discovered yet. It keeps us busy. It keeps us busy.
May not need more than 10 or so on a day-to-day basis, but the explosion of words shows that color has gone from something that we just use to survive to an integral part of expressing ourselves and making our imaginations a reality.
Nice.
What could be more visually
the bloopers.
fundamental than the dichotomy, considering it's most people's favorite color?
She does a great job, though. I love this channel. Hey, that's so interesting how that evolved and turned into. We actually now need the names of the color just because of art and other things. And it's quite interesting how colors, that it only exists through our perception, really. And maybe it's not even a thing in objective reality, only when it's perceived. And it's different for every entity that perceives it. Like for a dog, for instance, will see colors differently than we do, or a bird. So very interesting how those things exist, like tastes and smells that only exist when we perceive it in our awareness. So yeah, super interesting stuff, and I always love to hear about the etymology of things and how things get named and words, the evolution of words and stuff. Cool. Thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Peace.